Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Welcome back to the Gay Buddhist Fellowship. Before we go around and introduce ourselves, just by a show of hands, is there anyone here for the first time or returning after a long absence?
Great.
Perhaps as we go around and introduce ourselves, we can be attentive and remember your names. So our tradition is to introduce ourselves before we introduce our speaker. We'll just go around the room. I'm Tom Bruein.
My name is Marty.
I'm Casey.
My name is Oswaldo.
Dennis. Michael.
Gary.
Dave.
Peter.
And my name is Mark.
I'm Jim Steve.
Cass.
Jack.
James. My name is Sean Clark. I'm Jerry Martin.
Todd Vaughn.
My name is Clint.
John. Jay.
I'm David Bukaka. My name is Jerry Jones.
My name is Tim.
Jim.
My name is Roy. George.
Jerry.
George. Peck.
My name is Steve.
My name is
Harley.
my name is Eric.
Roger.
My name is Michael. I'm Kaleo.
I'm Ian.
I'm Daniel.
My name is Ben.
My name is Bob.
My name is Joe.
My name is Jay.
Did we miss anyone?
I'm Heather.
Oh, yeah. So today we have the privilege of hearing again from Heather Sundberg. Heather began teaching meditation in 1999, primarily to youth and families. She has completed the 4-year Spirit Rock Insight Meditation Society teacher training and continues to be mentored by Jack Cornfield. She's also a graduate of the Spirit Rock Community Dharma Leaders Program. She held the position of Spirit Rock Family Program teacher and manager from 2001 to 2010. Currently, she teaches classes, day-longs, and retreats throughout California, especially at Spirit Rock, and through the Mountain Stream Meditation Center community. She brings to her teaching a passion for the depth of retreat practice, combined with a playful creativity for integrating the teachings into daily life. Heather, welcome.
Thank you. So lovely to be back here and have come here enough times now that when I walked in I saw familiar faces and old friends, and for those of you that are new to this community, I hope you come back enough times as I have, that when you walk in everyone's not a stranger. But this is certainly a very warm and welcoming community for me to visit, so thank you for having me. The last time I was here was actually the first Sunday of the new year, I was remembering, of 2011. And so I remember that we were sharing some teachings about intention and about taking refuge, and I was just reflecting back, on this year. At that time, I had 2 weeks before returned home from living in Asia for about 6 months in 2010. So at that time, I was very much arriving back in the United States. I was trying to get my health together. I was trying to get readjusted to the comforts and contractions of home. And I had also just moved to Nevada City, which is in the Sierra Foothills, and it's where I live now. And we're starting a town center up there, a meditation center in town in Nevada City through Mountain Stream. So it'll be called Mountain Stream Meditation Center. So I'm sure if we went around the room, which would be fun to do, if we had endless amounts of time, we could pass the talking stick and everybody could say, yeah, this is where I was at the first weekend of the new year. And here we are 7 months later. And what I notice is that I am still trying to get my health together. It's a little more complicated than it appeared. And that I'm still arriving. For example, living in the Sierra foothills where it's in the 90s every day right now, it was a miracle that I even brought a sweater, much less one that matched my shirt. It was quite miraculous. I was very grateful that those conditions somehow came into play. I had some visceral memory of what it was like to live in the San Francisco Bay Area. And what's interesting as I look at these last 7 months is that a theme has come out for me in my own practice and in teaching very, very strongly. And I've basically practiced one thing this whole year. It came out of my time in India the year before, and it was really a rekindling of the core practice that was awakened and alive in me when I very first started to meditate when I was 17, 18, 19 years old. Started young. So there's a rekindling of that practice. And it's turned out to be the only thing that I've taught since I saw you last. In fact, I believe that this group is the only group that I taught something besides the teaching that I'm about to teach today, because, I'd only been home for 2 weeks. I hadn't quite gotten my mind wrapped around what is it that needs to come out of me as far as these teachings of the Buddha Dharma. And so what I've been teaching this entire year is the Brahma Viharas. And the Brahma Viharas are translated as divine abodes. I think of them as the places that our heart lives or our mind lives when we're not confused, angry, scared, startled. They're the places that naturally live in our being and in our actions when we're not, for example, shooting the second arrow. Do you know the teaching of the second arrow? Yeah, some people are nodding, some people don't. Make sure you know it. Because for me, the teaching of the Brahma Viharas has always been grounded in the teaching of the Four Noble Truths. And that's the very first teaching that the Buddha offered formally to his group of 5 friends after he became fully awakened. He could have said anything, but what he chose to talk about was that included in being a human being living a life, there's challenge and there's stress and there's suffering, and that there's causes for that suffering. It's the second truth. That there's a way out, that peace is possible within our very lives as they are. It's the third truth. Then the fourth truth is the path to peace, or the Eightfold Path. So when I think of it in terms of teaching the 2 arrows, this comes directly from the Buddha. It's as if a person has been shot by an arrow. And that arrow is called being a human being living a life events that are challenging. And of course there are just as many life events that are wonderful. We don't tend to be challenged by those or struggle with the wonderful life events as much. So we'll talk about, the hard stuff. It's as if a person has been shot by an arrow. That arrow might be sickness, it might be aging, it might be death, it might be not getting what you want, or it might be getting what you don't want. There's endless manifestations and variations of this first arrow that comes in. And then there's this interesting choice point where we can choose, if we have enough mindfulness present and enough conditions supporting us in our lives, to either to shoot the second arrow or not. And our habit is to shoot it. What is it? What it is kind of the extra mental suffering that we have around all those events. So I get sick, right? It's happening. I'm sick. I'm still sick. I'm probably going to be sick for a while longer. So that's the first arrow. There it is. Second arrow is, how could I be sick? Why can't I get better? Oh, this is so horrible. Oh, maybe if I mean, can you feel that energy of just, it's arrows. We're just shooting ourselves over and over and over. Instead of, oh, I'm sick. How can I have a compassionate response for myself today? How can I look at you and realize that this thing called sickness has touched you too, and that we're not separate in it, and that I can look at you and realize, oh, not everybody in this room is sick in this moment. What a joy, what a gift. I'm so happy for you. That's actually the heart of sympathetic joy versus the heart of compassion. So when we're not shooting the second arrow, these awakened qualities of heart that can be called the Brahma Viharas, which are loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, naturally arise, naturally manifest. We all have these qualities in our being, and when we're not shooting the second arrow, when we're not frightened and confused and irritated, they manifest. So they live within us, and for some people, saying it as awakened states of heart is the way that rings true for you. Other people, it would be awakened states of mind. A lot of my meditation training has been in the Thai forest tradition that comes out of Thailand. And if you go to Thailand and you ask somebody who was raised there to, where is your mind? They point to their heart. So there isn't this duality or separation in that culture where these teachings come from, the tradition I'm coming from, the Thai forest tradition, or the insight meditation tradition is the American version of that. There's not this separation between mind and heart. So if I keep saying heart and you're thinking, no, that doesn't ring true for me, just retranslate for yourself as mind. It's the same. So these qualities, loving kindness being the first quality, and that's the quality of mind and heart that is open and warm and filled with well-wishing. It's a friendliness. It's a basic friendliness. And sometimes people think, oh, does it have to be, gushy and huge and, all pervasive love for all beings all the time, no exceptions? No. It doesn't have to be that. I mean, it could be that. But there's no reason for us to shrink back when it's not that and say, oh, I don't have a heart of loving kindness because it's not all pervasive all the time. Not at all. It's a heart that's friendly, that meets ourselves, that meets our community, that meets experience with friendliness. We could aim to cultivate that. It's already present, and we can also cultivate it. And both are true. So that famous quote from the Buddha saying, we can use our community here as just an in-the-moment example. If we look around the room and see everybody here, our whole community, and what the Buddha said is if you look the whole world over, the whole world community, so we have huge communities and micro-communities. This is a micro-community. If you look the whole world over, you really see everybody. There's no one more worthy for your love and your kindness than this one here, which is yourself. Why? The way the quote actually goes in the sutta is this: I visited all quarters of the world with my mind, nor found I any dearer than myself. Self is likewise to every other dear. Who loves himself will never harm another. Because when that friendliness is in ourselves and it deepens, we look out and we realize it's not separate. It's the same way as when we're having an angry day and we're wearing those angry glasses. Everything causes irritation. If you notice, that wouldn't normally necessarily cause that level of irritation. There it is. I'm wearing the angry glasses today, and every little thing is so particularly annoying. If we're wearing the friendliness glasses of loving kindness and we started with ourselves, we're going to look out and see a world that is more friendly, than we would if we were frightened that day. It's the way the mood or quality of mind colors our field of experience, and certainly our interpersonal experience. So that same heart of friendliness meets the condition of suffering, which we all have in ourselves, and we have in our communities and in our families, and certainly in the world situation always. That same heart of friendliness meets an experience of suffering and says, oh, I care. I care about this pain. And it quivers, is how it's traditionally taught. That it quivers, that it responds to the pain of the world. That very same heart that's open and friendly looks around and sees the joy and the celebration and the successes in the world, what's going well, and says, this is great. May your happiness and good fortune continue. May it increase even. It's open enough and friendly enough that it realizes that if you're doing well and I'm not doing quite as well, it doesn't mean that anything's taken away from me. It doesn't mean that there isn't enough for me. It's not working from the premise of scarcity. It's saying, if you are happy and doing well, that is going to impact my own heart, and you've just given me a gift. Thank you. I'm going to be open and friendly to that. Sometimes it's so hard to celebrate other people's good fortune when we're really in a stew in our lives. It's not easy. And then the same heart, which has the wisdom and experience to start to see, we're just passing the hat here. It's kind of how I think about it. We're just passing these hats around the room, and some of us are wearing more of the suffering hat today, and others of us are wearing more of the celebration and good fortune hat today. And we're just passing these hats around, the joys and the sorrows, and also how we're holding them. It's been an interesting year for me in the sense that if you ask me how my year has gone or how my day is any given day, I could equally say to you, this has been one of the best years of my life. I am so happy. Things are going so well for me. And it would be absolutely true. I could equally say this has been one of the hardest years of my life, and I've really struggled, and I've really suffered, and, I'm sort of just barely dragging along here. And it would actually be equally true. The heart of equanimity can see the joys and the sorrows and how they come and they go, and they're all completely based on conditions that have added up for us all to be here sitting in this moment, reaching now. And there's a sense of resting in what's true. There's a sense of balance, of evenness, and of openness in the ever-changing conditions of our lives that says, I can bear this. Right now it's like this, it's going to change. This could be great, this could be terrible, it's going to change. It's okay. That's really the heart of equanimity. So those are the flavors. And what's so interesting for me is that these two sets of teachings, the Four Noble Truths and the Brahma Viharas, were really how I came into meditation practice and why I came into meditation practice. I came in with a tremendous amount of personal suffering in my life. I mean, yes, I was young. So part of that meant that I didn't have the tools to deal with the suffering, for example, in my family that was being presented to me. I didn't have the tools yet. I was a kid. And when we don't have the tools and conditions are overwhelming and unbearable, we tend to do all kinds of skillful things to distract ourselves and make it go away and all these things. And of course I did all those things and made it, 100 times worse. So then I had to deal with cleaning up my own mess, which we all have to deal with in cycles in our lives. And so coming into meditation, into a community of people who were willing to tell the truth about the hard things, who were willing to say, yeah, part of being a human being living a life is that it's challenging. This is true. And that there's actually causes to this. And that peace can be possible. And that there's a way, there's a path, there's tools in terms of our ethical conduct, in terms of learning these meditation practices, in terms of using the power of our minds with intention and wisdom. There's tools here. Very inspiring for me. But it was this piece about the awakened heart that made those truths the most real for me. Because then it was this matter of, okay, all that's true. I can investigate it and see it for myself. And that's what I always encourage all of us to do, is to take these teachings that we hear and investigate and see for ourselves. Don't take anybody's word for it, because our own understanding is so much more rich than anything that I or anybody else could tell you. And then we start to experience these qualities of a heart that's letting go into wisdom and into compassion. This quote by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The reason why love and compassion bring the greatest happiness is simply that our nature cherishes them above all else. The need for love lies at the very foundation of human existence. It results from the profound interdependence we all share with one another. Yeah. So then we start to experience the juice, and the joy and the happiness and the stability to take life on life's terms, which is really miraculous, because then we don't have to manipulate the conditions of our minds or our lives nearly as much, which leaves us with this boundless level of energy to manifest in our greatness. Whether it's in the service we do in the world, whether it's meeting difficulties in our families with that much more spaciousness, whatever it is, we've each got our own version of that. It's very inspiring. And for me and for so many people that the teachings talk about this, there were a lot of steps to opening to these awakened states of heart. And in the traditional teachings, they talk about some qualities that are called the near and far enemies of these awakened states of heart. I've retranslated them because near and far enemies in 2011 in San Francisco I can come up with a better translation than that. And the Buddha was very well known for taking the vernacular of the people that he was teaching to and using words that were familiar to them and imbuing them with a particular meaning, and then encouraging everybody else to do the same. So here we are, 2,550 years later, still doing it. And what I like to think of these qualities is the qualities that masquerade as awakened qualities of mind and heart, and then their opposites. So I run into a lot of these, and everybody does. A quality that masquerades as loving kindness is that of an affection which has a twinge of selfishness in it. So it's open, it's friendly, but it's about me, It's still all about me. And so there's a selfishness in it. But I think of it as masquerading because it still has the qualities of openness and friendliness. So it's not as if we've made a mistake when we move into that level of the continuum. We've just gone off a little bit, and we can come right back with a moment of mindfulness. It's not a problem. When we get caught in the opposite of loving kindness, it can be more obvious and therefore easier to come back. Qualities that won't surprise any of us, like anger or hatred or the heart that's closed. Yeah. For me, one of the barriers to the heart that was open and friendly was what I call the concrete bunker. I had the concrete bunker syndrome when I was young, and because of the amount of impact of life circumstances, I had to build a big concrete bunker in front of my heart. And the way I experienced the world and the way I would have experienced you at that time is just kind of vague and far away and disconnected, and I wouldn't feel much. The concrete bunker in front of my heart. And it kept me safe at a time when I didn't have other tools available. So in that way it was a gift. I think of the ways that we defend our hearts and our minds as habits we developed when we didn't have other tools available to us that perhaps have outstayed their time by, 10 or 20 years. But, that's okay. We can wake up to it at any time and start to dismantle, right? So in their own way, they're gifts, and they have information that's helpful for us in terms of being who we want to be today. So I had to take that down, and that's not an easy thing to do. We all know that. It was like brick by brick, and then something scary would happen, and I'd put up a few more layers, and then I'd untangle it a little bit more. And one day I noticed there was a window in the concrete bunker, and all of a sudden I could see you again after just years of vagueness. We've all got our own stories about this. That's my story. With compassion, a few things that masquerade as compassion. I think of two main things. One is the heart of pity. So the heart of pity is caring in the face of suffering, but there's a slight separation. Oh, I'm so sorry for you, and what's going on with you, as if it's separate from me. Why? Because it's a little bit too much. It's a little bit too intense. So we protect ourselves by being sorry for you and pushing you away a little bit. And we all do it. Perfectly natural. So it has qualities of compassion. It's just a near miss. Another near miss is the heart of codependence, right? That would be the 2011 version in the United States of America. The heart of codependence, which cares deeply in the face of suffering. A lot of us in our communities are taking care of others who are suffering tremendously, and it breaks our hearts open. But then, in moments, we fall into the pit of codependence, which is a very, very caring heart that suddenly forgot about the law of personal relative reality, which is there is a you and a me. And we're not sitting here in the same bodies. There are a bunch of bodies sitting in this room. And that's the personal reality. And it got merged so much that other person's pain that we're taking care of suddenly is in our own body, and we can't see clearly anymore, and we can't be open anymore because we've just gotten bowled over by the wave of codependence. And it passes. And it's hard. But still caring. And we can come back. And then the opposite qualities, again, anger, ill will, hatred. The one that might be less familiar to you that I think of as an opposite quality of compassion is this quality of numbness. You ever experienced numbness when things just shut down for whatever reason? And I think of it as an opposite quality because you can't feel anything. So the heart's not vibrating in response to pain. It's a stone. It's the heart of stone is what I call it. The heart that's numb. But I think that numbness is a beautiful quality to work with in our practice because we can bring the same compassionate caring to our own numbness. And where I first learned this was through, in the Vipassana or insight meditation tradition, one of our great elders in the tradition. She's in her late 80s and she's still teaching all the time. Her name is Ruth Dennison. I'm sure some of you have heard of her. And I really took in her teaching on practicing with numbness, with compassion, because I felt like I could take her seriously, not just because of the depth of her practice, but because of the pain that she's experienced in her life. So I knew she knew what numbness was and what she was talking about. This is a woman who grew up in Germany during World War II. was in the midst of wartime, didn't have enough to eat, experienced terrible sexual assault at the hands of soldiers, and all this is public. And then fled to this country as an immigrant. And so when she said to me, and when she says to her students, numbness, in the pain, numbness is okay. And I always hear her voice in a German accent, which I'm terrible at imitating, but I can't say it in my own voice because I hear it in her voice. And she just says, darling, just feel the numbness, darling. That's all you need to do. Just feel the numbness, darling. Feel it fully. Bring that caring to the heart of numbness itself. What I love about that teaching beyond just feeling the numbness is it's a pointer to something that I feel is very important, which is any time that we're lost or confused or contracted in our minds and our hearts and our bodies, right there is actually a doorway to wake up again. What we tend to do is turn the mind of judgment towards something like numbness. Oh, I should care. I should be a good Buddhist and care. I should be a good friend and care. Should. That's what we tend to do, or whatever your version of it is. That's my version. But if we take the same underlying caring and use it, that same quality of numbness or concrete bunker or whatever it is becomes the actual doorway to waking up an openness of being, right there. Right there within something that we might have thought was a problem. Is it? No. One of the things that's really come to me during this year of teaching on this topic is kind of a metaphor for our hearts and our minds. And it's a metaphor of the breath. So we breathe in and we breathe out. We've been doing it this whole time we've been sitting here. We've been doing it ever since we've been born. And we'll keep doing it until we die. An amazing process. That's actually why we use it as an anchor in multiple meditation traditions for our attention, because it's always available to us. And we're not doing it to become breathing experts because we're already breathing. But we're doing it to connect with something that is always available right here and now. And that is actually completely in sync with the laws of nature, because it's moving in and it's moving out, and there's an expansion and opening, and there's a contraction in the lungs themselves. Well, I think of the heart that way. The heart is constantly expanding and contracting, opening and closing in response to life's events, in response to our own internal world, opening and closing. Now, it's not as if we say to ourselves, oh, it's better to breathe out than to breathe in. I will try to breathe out continuously. We don't do that, right? We don't judge the in-breath as worse than the out-breath and avoid it at all costs. We allow the natural process to happen in our humanness. But we do that with our hearts. We do that with our hearts, our emotional world, and the way that we respond to life events. We say, oh, the contraction is bad. I want to avoid that. That hurts, it's bad. Or, whatever your version is. And the expansion, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for these Brahma Viharas every second. All the time. Compassion, joy, equanimity, loving kindness. That's a pretty cruel thing that we do to ourselves. Judging one experience is better than the other, when in fact it's just living its life the same way our bodies do, in the same way the breath does. And it opens and closes, and one contraction of our being around an event is actually the seed for the next expansion. When? I couldn't tell you. How? I couldn't tell you. But it is. So it's kind of a metaphor that I've been using. And when we practice these Brahma Viharas formally, we use phrases. I'm sure many of you, well, you tell me, those of you who practice loving kindness practice, what is your favorite phrase or intention of well-wishing in the loving kindness practice? You can just say it out loud. What's your favorite one that you say?
May you be safe.
Thank
May
you.
you be free of suffering.
Be happy.
May I be filled with love and kindness.
May you be peaceful.
Free from danger.
May all beings be free.
So, that's nice. You can feel them in the room a little bit. It's okay if you can't. It might just be, sitting next to the Buddha. I don't know. But you can feel a little bit in the room. So we use these phrases, and they're phrases of intention based on the premise that where we direct our minds is where results are going to arise. And you don't have to take my word for that. You use a simple metaphor for it. If we're hungry and we're walking down the street here, what we're going to see are the restaurants and the stores because we're hungry. That's where our minds are directed. It's hungry, food, eat. We don't see the clothes stores. And yet when we're shopping for clothes, what we see are, a backpack or something, then that's the the stores that we see. That's kind of a simple metaphor for how it works. If we direct our minds with these phrases or intentions, then that's what's living in the mind. If we're not directing those phrases or intentions, you tell me what's your favorite story of the week that you're telling yourself that may have a completely different tone. It usually has the tone of planning or remembering or worrying or wanting or, take your pick. So that's why the phrases. There are also phrases for compassion, for sympathetic joy, and for equanimity. What all these phrases do is they set our intentions of where we would like our minds to be so that results can arise. They're all practices of purification. So the simplest example I'll give, I teach the Metta retreat or loving kindness retreat at Spirit Rock every winter. And it seems like almost every year someone will come in and talk to me and say, I must be doing the phrases wrong because, I'll say to myself, may I be protected and safe. And what I feel is completely scared and how unsafe I feel. I must be doing it wrong. Can you help me? And I just look at them and I say, no, you're doing it exactly right. You've actually given yourself the conditions to feel the part that doesn't feel protected and safe. It's a process of giving room for everything. And then you can work with that, and then that passes away again, and the next phrase arises. It's not wrong at all. And that's why they call it a practice of purification. That it gives room for everything that inhibits an open, friendly heart to show up and get its attention, and get its due, and the learning that we get to learn from all of that. And then there's also the piece about really resting in these qualities when they do arise. And not just on the cushion, in our lives. When we meet someone on the street who we would normally shut down to for whatever reason, and we notice, oh, there's a friendliness in that. Quality of loving kindness, to really take that in and appreciate that. That was a moment of practice right there. That was a moment of nurturing, a positive quality. I really learned about that living in Asia because it's just this constant bombardment of people. There's so many people. And they all have their lives and their needs. And, walking around in that culture clearly looking like a Westerner, there was definitely a lot of expectation that I could meet way more needs of these others than I could ever meet. And how to keep the heart open. how to say no with a smile, how to be open when my heart contracted, knowing it would open again. It doesn't matter what city street we're walking on, whether it's New Delhi, India, or San Francisco, it's the same. It's the same. So resting in that awakened quality. And really what it takes is practice, like everything else. Just a daily life practice. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you how you practice these qualities in your life. And it might be very simple things. I took on a whole practice for a while called learning how to say no with a smile. And it was quite interesting. And it took a long time for that practice to mature. I had another loving kindness practice which I called staying connected no matter what. And when I would walk into situations where there was conflict, I would make the commitment in advance to stay connected no matter what. And it wasn't condoning anybody's inappropriate actions, because often there were inappropriate actions. It was just saying, I'm going to stay connected no matter what. Not an easy practice. I had an equanimity practice for a while that was called everybody is playing their role perfectly. So, you laugh, you get that one. I was actually taught that practice by a student who was struggling with his father. Saying, my father's giving me such a hard time. He was a young man. My father's giving me such a hard time. He's trying to tell me what to do, and I just want him to get off my back. And I was smiling and smiling. I'd known this young man for years. He said, why are you smiling? This is hard. I said, no, I know it's hard. It just sounds like everybody's playing their role perfectly. You're playing your role perfectly as a young man. There's nothing wrong here. Your father's playing his role perfectly as the father of a young man who hasn't quite been ready to let go yet. You're both playing your roles perfectly. He said, nah. But he had been meditating for some years, and he went and he reflected on it, and he came back and he said, I had a conflict with my dad the other day, and I thought about what you said, and I looked at it and I realized we were both playing our roles perfectly. And the outcome was different. He said, we still fight, but in that moment the outcome was different. So I took it on as my own practice. I worked with it with bosses for a while. Everybody's playing their role perfectly. You're the boss, I'm the employee. So those are just a few I've used. Give you one more quote from His Holiness, and then see what you have to add. Changes in attitudes never come easily. The development of love and compassion is a wide, round curve that can be negotiated only slowly, not a sharp corner that can be turned all at once. It comes with daily practice. So love and compassion, a wide, round curve that can be negotiated only slowly, not a sharp corner that can be turned all at once. And it comes with daily practice. It comes with how we live it. That's how it comes. And we all do it. We all practice, we all manifest these, we all get lost and confused. So I'd be curious if maybe one or two people want to add your own Brahma Vihara practices. What do you do to practice loving kindness or compassion or joy or equanimity?
There's a common one I use often, which is just to think of someone that you may be struggling with, having a challenge with, and just send them and yourself loving kindness.
Thank you.
I do it at night when I come home on uni. I do metta practice.
Oh, that's great.
Because I have to check out where I am, because I'm usually hungry, tired, kind of lonely, being around a lot of people, and then I just see everybody's in the same place. So I just say, may we all be free of suffering, and may be happy, joyous, and may the best thing in your life come to you right now. So, and then it kind of takes away from me, and I do gratitude also. Like I'm grateful I got a seat on me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great practice. How many other people do these practices on public transportation? I'm just curious. Really, because one thing I forgot to reflect on for a long time when I was doing that kind of practice on public transportation, there was some underlying idea that I was the only one doing this. And then I realized this is the Bay Area. I bet there's others on this very vehicle who are doing this practice. And then it got even more fun, you know? So it's great to see some hands go up. And you had another one.
With the number of friends, when they're going through their issues or their stories, I find myself kind of judging, or maybe I want to help them. I want to come up with a solution to that business-oriented thing.
Yeah.
But lately I've been taking deep breaths, looking at them, going, oh my gosh, they just need a blank canvas to express what's going on. And at that moment in time, I take some deep breaths and it's going to pass. We'll figure it out. Or at least not talk as much, because I haven't had the answer. So just giving them an opportunity to let them know that I understand.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Please.
Again, I try also when people start unloading, and I really am tired and I'm impatient and I want to tell them to get over it. I take a deep breath and I just try and just listen with an understanding face. Another thing that's quite challenging is, again, the beggars, panhandlers, and the Bay Area is difficult. San Francisco is difficult, but again, Asia and India is overwhelming. And I've tried it, and again, I'm going to be going soon. And it's really, really difficult. And what I've been trying to do, and I practice here too, is just go like this and give a smile. No talk, no money, because it's endless. And a lot of times it really works. It's just people are shocked that you would just go like this and give a little smile, but just keep walking. And it's interesting how often it really works. A lot of times it doesn't. They keep on grabbing at you, and angry. But actually, more than not, it's a disarming little thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you've found that, and yeah, I mean, I'm also thinking even when it doesn't quote unquote work, meaning the outcome that we desired didn't arise, which is they didn't follow us grabbing. Again, thinking about India. I found that when I brought that kind of attitude to it, even when the mothers with the babies just were very intimately in my space and there was no changing that, my reaction to it was much less reactive. So I almost think of it as a double practice. There's this kind of the first avenue, as you said, of this, and what that brings up for you and the impact it has for the people that you're interacting with. And then also it keeps giving a flavor to whatever happens next, whether they stop or not.
And I find even in San Francisco.
Yeah, I'm talking about San Francisco.
They're shocked that it's that way rather than ignoring them, but they're not quite sure even when they're not happy.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and keep doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that's about all we have time for.
It is all we had time for, so that was what I had to offer for your reflection. Thank you so much for your attention and for your practice.
Thank you, Heather. I have this wonderful vantage point of seeing you in a field of sunflowers. Next to meeting on Chestnut.
And you also.
Only you and I get that. Thank you so much, Brahma, Viharas. Do we have any announcements? Cliff?
Yeah, I'm sorry I keep repeating this announcement every week, but for those of who don't know, we do a dinner once a month at the Market Street Youth Center. It's a shelter for homeless young people. And it's, we find a menu, we buy the food, prepare at the shelter. It's a lot of fun. The kids are great. They express their appreciation very vocally. Anyway, I'm looking to beef up the volunteer list again. So if anybody's interested, it's not a commitment to do it every time, but just from time to time to be available. Contact me outside and I'll add you into the list.
Jerry?
The Gay Buddhist Fellowship Retreat in September is filled. I am taking names for a waiting list if you're interested in going, but we sold out in 2 weeks. So,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, so but if you're interested, I've got a few people waiting, but you're more than welcome to put your name on the list.
Roy?
Thank you, Heather, once again. It's great to see you.
Me
We've got to
too.
get you back here. 7 months is way too long. Next week's group discussion.
Do we have a host?
I'm the host. Please stay for tea and freshly baked scones. If you please wash your teacup. What else? I'll be bringing around a Donna Bowl. We ask for a contribution of $5 to $8 to support the Sangha. There's a mailing list. If you out by the bowl is over there. If you'd like to receive the newsletter, and people go to lunch around 12:30. So if you'd like to go to lunch, hang out by the door at 12:30.
I also just want to add, because I'm not living in the Bay Area anymore, a little bit harder to track down. I am down here a couple times a month because Bay Area will always be my home. But I have a website which you can just Google heathersundberg.com, and my email's on there. And if you want to look up when I'm going to be back down here or anything else that I'm doing, or send me an email, say hi, you're more than welcome to.
All right. Why don't we gather in a circle for dedication to marriage?
Yeah, sure. So I was asked if I had a dedication of merit that I liked, and I do. And I think we'll just begin it by taking a moment in silence and letting our minds and our hearts move towards sending out good wishes, and especially if there's anybody in your life that's having challenges right now, sending your good wishes in their direction. So we can do this dedication in call and response. It goes like this. May all beings receive the blessings of my life.
May all beings receive the blessings of my life.
May I receive the blessings of my life.
May I receive the blessings of my life.
May those I love receive the blessings of my life.
May those I love receive the blessings of my life.
May those I do not love receive the blessings of my life.
May those I do not love receive the blessings of my life.
May all those in this circle receive the blessings of my life.
May all those in the circle receive the blessings of my life.
May all beings receive the blessings of my life.
May all beings receive the blessings of my life.
So sweet.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.